All right, folks, we're going to talk today about my favorite part after I harvest an animal, and that's tracking that arrow deer. Now, 90% of the time, you're not going to see that deer fall right in your line of sight, depending upon the cover you're in or anything like that. So you got to kind of think, and there's 4 different kind of steps that you have to think about, is whether you hit the deer in the heart and the lungs, whether you hit him in the guts, whether you hit him in the liver, or hit him high or low. It's stuff you need to think about, while you're giving that deer time. It's something you need to think about every time you harvest one, not just get right down and start trying to find that animal. Okay, the first scenario I want to talk about is a good, perfect heart-lung shot, clean pass-through. You have the arrow laying right beside where you shot the animal, and main thing is still, don't rush it. Get your thoughts together. Know what you're going to do before you get down from the tree. But coming up on a good heart-lung shot with a clean pass-through, go straight down, straight to the arrow, and investigate the arrow. A good heart-lung shot, your arrow is going to be just covered with blood, good bright red blood, and it's going to have some air bubbles possibly from the lung and all that on it. Now, as you're starting to trail that bloodline, as you're going through the woods, don't rush that either, because a lot of times you'll have a blood spot on the ground. Other times you have to look up. You might have a blood spot up on a tree branch where it didn't drop all the way down. It depends on how well the deer's bleeding. But another thing is, as you move along, if you're not bleeding out heavily right at the beginning, sometimes take a little piece of paper towel and just kind of rip off a little piece so you kind of follow your blood trail. Just don't rush and walk on where you need to be going. Just move forward slowly. Okay, the second scenario is going to be a liver shot. Something that you want to pay attention to is dependent upon the angle that you shot the deer. If you get a clean pass through and you shot in the liver, you shot back and high. By inspecting your arrow, the arrow is going to have like a really deep red, kind of almost purplish color to it. You may have a little bit of gut matter depending upon, how low or high you hit him, but you've hit him back. One thing I always say in that instance, and you see that arrow, is let that deer go. A good 4 to 6 hours, even overnight. If you're in an area where it's cool enough where the deer is going to keep and everything like that, it's one of those things where you do not want to push that deer. A lot of times you'll even see those deer liver shot, they'll go a long ways and loop all the way back to where they came from, and you'll find them behind you. Just take your time, because one thing is when you shoot that deer in the liver and you shoot him up high like that, his body cavity is going to have to fill up before he's going to actually start bleeding out. So when you first start inspecting, you might not find any blood a ways away. That's why you pay attention to where he cut into the woods or whatnot. But be looking a little bit higher, because the blood's going to start higher on his body before it rolls down to his belly and starts dripping underneath him. All right, your last scenario is going to be a gut shot deer. We've all done it, and it's something that happens. When you inspect that arrow, because normally on a gut shot deer, you're going to have a pretty clean pass through, just because there's nothing really hard that the arrow has to travel through. But by inspecting that arrow, you'll see nothing but gut matter, brown, green matter, and right then and there that's a gut shot deer. Now, as far as the bleeding of that, it's going to be very minimal, and you might get some gut matter as he's running or stuff that's going to be bubbling out of him that you're going to find. But I always say on a gut shot deer, the main thing that I look for is for water, a water source. Where's the closest water source? That deer is going to know where it's at, because the number one thing that I've seen in the past, a gut shot deer will go lay in the water to cool his belly, because it's basically hot from that arrow passing through. But in that scenario, I say get out of the woods, leave him overnight, give him time, because it's going to take a while for that deer to expire. That's one of those times where you just really do not want to rush anything. Okay, hunting season is just a few weeks away. You might wind up being in one of these 3 scenarios. I'm not saying that all these scenarios are set in stone on how you're going to track and find them, because a lot of things change with different areas that you're in. But, I might have told you a few things that might help you along the way. But just remember, when you're in the stand and you take that shot, no matter if you've made a great shot and that animal did not go far, I just always say, don't rush it. Take your time, get your thoughts back together, figure out what you did, and hey, even if you saw that deer fall, another thing that I love to do is go out there and just, track that blood, trail that out, just to see what, because everything's going to be different every time. But just follow these few lines. I hope I helped you a little bit. I'm Billy Lawson at stickemarchery.com, where we get you closer.